Ba-dum-bum. G'day guys, what's going on? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you guys have had an absolutely killer holiday. I hope you guys got awesome presents from Santa. You'll have to let me know in the comments section or in a message or an email or something. You'll have to let me know what Santa brought you and if it was exactly what you guys were after this Christmas. And New Year's Eve party, wow. How were the Sydney fireworks, if you guys got to check those out? New Year's Eve I spent at a family's friend's house with my girlfriend Kel, my sister, her boyfriend, and their new baby Isabel, my parents, and obviously my family friends. And so we were down at their place, and the weird thing this year was that the fireworks that go off locally, they're set off on the Bluff, which is the cliff near the ocean in a town called Barwon Heads. This town is right next to Ocean Grove, and the Bluff is this big cliff face that kind of projects out into the ocean. It's in front of Barwon Heads, the town, and it's really visible from Ocean Grove. And so we were watching the fireworks from there. But the weird thing this year was that they set the fireworks off at 10 o'clock. And I asked Mum and Dad why that was the case, and they were saying that apparently they do it now so the kids can view them. So the kids obviously can't be bothered staying up, or aren't allowed to stay up until midnight, and so the fireworks get set off 2 hours early. So it was a really weird kind of night, because we hung out, we had dinner, we had a really nice roast, and then hung out for a few hours, and then after that, straight away, the fireworks were going at 10 o'clock, and then I found myself walking home with Kel through the streets, and it was only 10:30. So we got home, we parked ourselves on the couch in front of the telly, in front of the TV at my folks' place, whilst my folks were still at the family friend's house, chatting away with them and drinking some scotch. Kel and I were a bit wrecked, so we went home, flicked on the telly, and had to wait another hour until we saw Sydney fireworks. But they were absolutely spectacular, and if you haven't seen the Sydney fireworks, if you're not in Australia, definitely check out 2017 Sydney fireworks on YouTube. I'm sure they'll be on there, and you'll get to see the fireworks getting shot up off the Sydney Harbour Bridge and all throughout the bay there, the Sydney Harbour, I guess, as well. So that's probably, I guess, by far Australia's best fireworks display. But you can also check out Melbourne's. Melbourne's is usually pretty good too. Like Sydney, they kind of have 5 or 6 locations around the city where the fireworks all get set off and they're synchronized. They all match, so they're really spectacular. But anyway, I hope you guys had a really good New Year's, and obviously Christmas as well. And again, send me a comment, give me a message or an email, and let me know what you guys did for New Year's and how you celebrate the New Year. And I know it's not the same everywhere. I know that Chinese people have the Chinese New Year, which I believe is in February or March. I'm not sure. I know it's after ours by 1 or 2 months. But yeah, let me know how you guys celebrate it. I'm always interested in understanding more about your culture and how you guys celebrate these kinds of holidays wherever you are in the world. Aside from that, I thought I would just hang out with you guys whilst I was driving to Ocean Grove today. So I'm in my mum's car, I've borrowed that, and I'm driving from my house, my old house now, in North Melbourne. I'm driving all the way back down to my parents' place, and I'm about to move into their house for a couple of months whilst I save some money. So I've only just sort of organised that in the last few weeks. That's why I haven't done any live classes. I've been busy organising all this stuff, and then family stuff and Christmas, New Year's, all that kind of jazz. And so running around like a chook with its head cut off. There's a good expression for you guys. If you run around with your head cut off, well, I guess run around like a chook with its head cut off. That's the idea of when farmers had to kill chickens and they'd chop their heads off, the chickens would run around like crazy, but sort of with no destination in mind. They just went around and around and around. Anyway, so I've been running around like a chook with its head cut off, trying to organise all this stuff, moving all my stuff from North Melbourne in Melbourne all the way down to Ocean Grove, which is half an hour further out from Geelong. So this is in the southwest area, I guess, of the Port Phillip Bay. So Melbourne's right at the top of Port Phillip Bay, the biggest bay in Australia, I believe. And Geelong is sort of southwest, and then Ocean Grove kind of goes a bit southeast of Geelong, back around the bay. So I'm moving all the way down there, back into my room where I grew up. And I haven't lived with my folks for probably 12 years now, so it's kind of a weird feeling. But it's going to be a good way of saving a bit of money so that I can rent a house down there. And oh my God, guys, it blew my mind. It blew my mind how cheap rent is outside of the city of Melbourne. Jesus Christ. So I'm in this old house in North Melbourne with two other people. So I'm living with an Estonian, a guy from Estonia called Richard, and I've lived with him for 3 or 4 years now in this house. And the latest person to move in is a girl named Burfi. You might have seen her in the interview that I did with her. She's the Turkish girl, Burfi. So she's living there as well. But there's 3 of us in this tiny old house, and the house is probably more than 100 years old and pretty run down, and the rent is $2,500 a month for the entire house. For me, it's $830, something like that, $830 a month for my room in this old house. And to put that in context, when I went down to Ocean Grove recently and was looking at renting places, there were entire houses that I could rent for that same price per month. So instead of paying $2,500 for a house like the 3 of us in Melbourne were doing, in Ocean Grove, just me alone paying about $850 a month could get me a relatively modest small house, but a whole house to myself nonetheless. So that blew my mind, and I had just become accustomed to the rent prices in Melbourne, which are absolutely ridiculous, but not as ridiculous as Sydney, as I'm sure some of you will know. So that's going to be a nice change, I think. So the plan, I guess, is Kel and I are hoping to move into a house down in Ocean Grove, but it might be in another coastal town down there. So Kel's my girlfriend, as you guys probably know. We've been together now for 3 or 4 months. So she wants to move down to Melbourne, and obviously instead of wasting time and having her find another house somewhere else and having her own housemates, we're just going to get a place together and see how it goes. So that's a bit of interesting news. So that's the plan. And yes, she's got to move down. She lives in Townsville at the moment and is working as a teacher or someone who takes care of kids at a boarding school up in Townsville. She has to do the IELTS test in February, so she's just gone back today. I actually drove her to the airport this morning to chuck her on the plane to see her off, say goodbye, and I'll see her in another month and a half, hopefully, maybe earlier, after she's finished the IELTS and saved a bit of money working up there, and obviously tossed her hat in with regards to her work, and come all the way back down to Melbourne. And it was really funny. She was kind of worried that it was going to be incredibly cold down here, but I think it's kind of shocked her just how hot it gets down in Melbourne and Ocean Grove and Geelong and everywhere in Victoria, despite it being 3,000 kilometres south of Townsville. And Townsville's a town all the way in the far north of Queensland. So it's incredibly hot and humid. But yeah, Melbourne tends to be really hot as well. But the good thing about Melbourne and Victoria that I like, it's a really dry heat. So it gets really hot, but it's dry. And the reason I like it when it's dry is that the sweat dries straight off your body, and so it allows you to cool down a lot faster, because that's what the whole point of sweat is. When you sweat, it dries and it takes heat out of your body as a result. Whereas up in Queensland, because it's so humid all the time, it's really difficult to cool down if it's a hot day, because the sweat doesn't dry because it's obviously really humid. So anyway, that's a bit of a fact about Melbourne weather versus Townsville weather. But yeah, so that's the plan. And I guess I should do a recap of 2017. I should do a recap. What have I achieved? What have I done? How's Aussie English gone? So I guess first and foremost, I started the Aussie English classroom in January of 2017. I believe it might have been the last few days of December 2016, but for all intents and purposes, it was January 2017. So this year's been really good. It was really funny because when I first started, obviously, it was a very modest beginning. I was still trying to work out what I was doing, how to best serve you guys, how to create exercises and other MP3s and bonus content for the expression episodes. And so I remember the first time I opened the Aussie English classroom to you guys, I was so nervous. I thought, no one's going to sign up, no one's going to be interested, who's going to want to pay Pete, some random guy on the internet, to help them with their English. And to my sort of astonishment, within the first month, I believe I had about maybe 12 or so sign-ups, maybe a bit more than 12. So 12 of you guys signed up to the Aussie English classroom in that first month. And that really blew my mind. And I think some of you guys are still using it a year later, which has really impressed me. So obviously I'm sort of somewhat on the right track, although I'm constantly trying to improve. But yeah, so I started the Aussie English classroom at the start of 2017. The first month we had maybe 12 or 15 people who signed up, and I'm really proud to say that in the meantime it's grown by about 10-fold. So we now have, I think at last count, it was about 138 students in the Aussie English classroom, 138 of you guys using the Aussie English classroom to upgrade your English on a weekly basis. And I guess I want to say thank you to all the students who've given it a go. Whether you're in there now or whether you have unsubscribed since, I still want to say thank you to you guys. I really appreciate it. I want to give a massive shout out to people like Akan, Ruchi, Roshio, Eliana. All of you guys have been really amazing, and I really appreciate all of your feedback. Whilst I've been trying to develop this thing, it's definitely something that is evolving over time and changing. It's very fluid. So I really appreciate the patience and the support, the encouragement and the feedback from you guys. And I am determined to continue to create more and more content for you guys in the Aussie English classroom. So there you go. That's what I feel like I wanted to get off my chest a little bit about the Aussie English classroom in 2017. So I'm really proud that that's worked its way up to where it is right now. Aside from that, I finished the PhD finally, my doctorate, my thesis. I handed that in. I got the thumbs up. I got the green light. I got the go-ahead. I'm all done with that. I'm looking forward to just focusing 100% now on Aussie English though. So I think I got the thumbs up, the go-ahead on that one. I think it was in November, finally. And so to give you context, I should tell you guys my sort of record at university. And that's a funny story in and of itself. So I went to uni straight out of high school, no break. I think that was 2006. And I went straight into a Bachelor of Science at Melbourne Uni. I finished that in 4 years. And then straight after that, I went into a Masters of Science. And I did my Masters on the evolutionary biology, or the phylogeography, that's a complex word, phylogeography of goannas. So native Australian goannas, which are massive lizards, the really big lizards that you see that are kind of walking around in the desert, in forests. The goanna is that really iconic Australian lizard that isn't a crocodile, which aren't lizards, but yeah, goannas. Check them out. They're awesome. So I did my master's on goannas, and I guess to try and explain what phylogeography is, the population of the species of goanna that I was looking at has a distribution from Victoria, it's in South Australia as well, so down the south of Australia here, right down in the south, all the way to the north of Australia. So it's actually found all the way up into Queensland. So it's along the eastern coast here, but it has a distribution of like 3,500 kilometres. As a result of having such a large distribution, there are populations within that distribution of this goanna. And the environment, whether it be mountains or deserts or differences in climate, can affect how well connected these populations are. So how much these populations come in contact with one another. And over a very, very long period of time, this kind of effect can lead to species turning into multiple species. So you might have one species that is found either side of a large mountain range. Imagine the Andes or the Alps in France. If you've got a species that's found on both sides, if that mountain range disrupts these animals being able to mix, these populations coming into contact, then it can lead to these species eventually becoming unique species that are no longer the same species. So from one species you get two. So that's how we have species on Earth. It's effectively through that kind of mechanism, that evolutionary mechanism. Anyway, I was looking at goannas in my master's degree and trying to work out if they were one species, if they were multiple species, or if there was just a little bit of structure in their population because they had such a large distribution. That was my master's degree, and then my PhD, again, I went straight into my PhD after I finished my master's degree in 2011, and I started my PhD in 2012 in the phylogenetics, or effectively the family tree. I was creating a family tree for Australian rodents, so Australian rats and mice. Why rats and mice? Rats and mice are really, really good for looking at how speciation occurs because they breed so quickly. They have lots and lots and lots of generations of individuals. So in a single year, a rat might give birth to one litter of pups. I guess they're called rat pups. Those pups grow up and they can have babies within a month. And so you could end up with 12 generations in a single year. So can you imagine that? A rat could have, if a rat lives for 2 years, it could have 24 generations below it of its offspring. So imagine having your 24th great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents still alive today. That'd be mind-blowing. Anyway, because they do that, they evolve, I guess, at a quicker rate, or at least they speciate. They can turn into multiple species at a faster rate than, say, elephants or humans, who have one generation maybe every 30 or 40 years. So that's why rats were interesting. There's 70 species of rats in Australia, and my PhD was effectively focused on trying to discover how these 70 species of rats were related to each other. And so in order to do that, I guess it's kind of like, as a comparison, it's kind of like you went to a family reunion, right? You go to a family reunion and you're not related to anyone. You're a stranger who's just walked into the room, and there's 70 people sitting around, and none of them have name badges on. You don't know who's related to who, and you're set with the task of working out how are these people related to each other. Are they cousins? Are they parents? Are they kids? Are they grandparents? In order to do that, you can use genetics. So you could actually, in the case of these humans, probably do a mouth swab. You just need some DNA from some of their cells. You take some DNA out of their body. It could be from blood, it could be from skin, whatever it is. Get some DNA. We can use machines to extract that DNA and get the sequence of the DNA. So you can actually get effectively the letters, the digits in the DNA. So A, C, G, T's, and the pattern there, how different or similar the pattern is in the DNA once you line up all these codes for each person or each species will tell you how closely or how distantly related those individuals are. So if you walked into a room and you were able to sample the DNA and sequence the DNA in order to get the code, and then use a computer program to run the statistics required to work out how different or similar they are, you could work out pretty quickly how closely related everyone was or distantly related everyone was, and you could create a family tree. I was effectively doing this in my PhD with 70 species of rats. So we had a very vague idea of how they were related, and in order to be sure of these relationships and really work them out, we had to sequence their DNA and then run them through an analysis program and create effectively a family tree, which is called a phylogeny. So we don't call them family trees. In science, they're called a phylogeny. So that was the PhD. Anyway, so I finished that this year in November and have pretty much decided that it's not for me. I'm not that keen on following up and going down the scientific route. I think I just derive way too much pleasure from helping you guys and teaching Australian English, and so this is obviously the career that I want to pursue as it currently stands. This is what I want to do with my life, and I hope you guys are happy with that. But yeah, it's been a funny road. A lot of people ask me, but you've spent all this time at university, you've had all this education, and the moment you finish and you could get a job that would be pretty decent, you decide that it's not for you and it's not something you want to do. Was it a waste of time? I guess as a response to that, my typical response is that first and foremost, I enjoyed studying. I enjoyed studying these topics. I was always a really, really big fan of animals, of evolution, of trying to understand how things were related to one another, why there are things that look different from each other with regards to species. You know, how come there are so many different forms of animals, of plants, of organisms all over the world? And so I loved studying my undergrad, my master's degree, and then my PhD. But it just wasn't for me with regards to, at least academia, I wasn't into because of the politics. It seemed like there was a lot of ego involved. People are pretty nasty, they're pretty selfish, they're pretty self-involved, where they're only interested in what you can do for them. They really couldn't care less, I felt, at least, that was my personal experience, about helping others unless it in some way helped them themselves. You know, there was no just giving, which is kind of what I guess I enjoy the most. I enjoy helping people without any kind of assumption that I'm going to get something in return. You know, I guess I get money in return for helping you guys in the Aussie English classroom, but you know what I mean. As in, I'm not doing it from selfish kind of like ego-based reasons. I simply want to survive, be able to pay my bills, and keep helping you guys. Anyway, so yeah, I don't regret it at all. It's made me the person I am today. It's given me the friends that I have today. It's given me the understanding of the world that I have today. I'm sure that I would have been a completely different person had I done something else other than this out of high school. I'm sure that's the case for everyone. But yeah, it's probably the reason too that I started Aussie English, to be honest. I don't think that Aussie English would have happened had it not been for the fact that I had started learning French as a way of escaping the PhD and having a different thing to look forward to and work on. I don't think I would have started Aussie English. So Aussie English is probably the direct result of these 12 years of study. Anyway, we've kind of got sidetracked. So 2017, aside from finishing the PhD, getting the girlfriend curl, starting the Aussie English classroom, obviously just at the end of 2017 as well, I'm moving back down to my hometown of Ocean Grove, which is something I potentially never thought that I was going to do. I had always thought that I would probably move overseas or just travel elsewhere in Australia, but I think because that's going to happen as a result of Aussie English, I'm not really as afraid of moving back to my hometown as I once sort of thought I was. I was kind of a bit, I want to spread my wings, I want to get out there, I want to do something different. I've always lived in Ocean Grove. I don't know if I can handle staying here for the rest of my life and being a small town Australian, because that tends to be the typical kind of Aussie, although it's becoming less and less so with kids moving around to get educated these days. So yeah, I guess that's 2017. I'm really happy with it. Financially, I'm doing okay, although I'm kind of just pushing up above zero most of the time. It's kind of funny how every bit of money I kind of earn, I tend to spend in some way or another on Aussie English, which is probably a good thing because I need to keep putting money into it and growing it. But that was a bit of a shock for me, I guess, too, taking the risk to go with Aussie English and try to do it as a full-time job as fast as I did. I think a lot of people would have suggested that I had found a full-time job first and maybe done that for a year, but I knew that if I had found a full-time job, it would have taken a lot of my attention away from Aussie English, and I wouldn't have been able to work on it as much as I want to in order to get it to a point where I was making enough money to live. So at the moment, at least, it's a bit of a meager living. I guess, to be honest, I'm making probably about a third of the minimum wage for someone who's on a full-time job. So to give you a rough figure, it's probably about $20,000 that I made in the last year from Aussie English. And to put that in perspective, the rent for my house, for me, was probably about $10,000. So it was enough to sort of get by and survive, and hopefully this year is going to be a lot better, and it just keeps increasing. So anyway, yeah, that was a really cool aspect of 2017 that I should mention too, is that I managed to have created a job for myself, and as soon as I left the PhD, I effectively just employed myself full-time, and yeah, really proud of the fact that I can support myself now based on the support from you guys and based on delivering something that helps you guys learn English. So really pumped about that. The only other thing that I just remembered that I should mention about 2017 is that I bought a car, and this is what's emptied my bank account recently down to zero. I bought a second-hand car in a small town called Anglesea, which is down the coast here near Geelong. So I had been looking for one for about probably a few weeks after I decided that I was going to move out of the house in Melbourne, because in Melbourne, obviously, there's a lot of public transport. Public transport's really amazing in Melbourne, so you don't really need a car. You can get away with not having a car if you don't require one, because there's buses, there's trams, there's trains, all of that sort of jazz. You don't really need a car. And then if you get one and you're not using it because you're trying to save money using public transport, it's costing you money because you have to pay for rego, you've got to pay for parking. Even in front of your house, you have to get like a sticker that says that you're allowed to park there, which you have to pay for. It's like $80 a year or something. So that's the reason that I hadn't had or owned a car for the entire time that I had lived in North Melbourne. So the last car I had was a BMW, and I'd gotten rid of that, I think, before my master's degree. So I got rid of that at the start of my master's degree, and I hadn't owned a car since. So it's probably been like 8 or 9 years since I've owned a car. And so I decided that obviously if I came down to Ocean Grove, there's only buses that run from Ocean Grove and go to everywhere else, and they come every hour or two, so it's kind of really slow, and you just kind of need your own car. So I decided that I was going to get one, and I got help from two of my mates, James and Dave, who are two mates from high school. They're brothers, and they're real rev heads. They're really into their cars, and we giving me advice on which car to sort of look for, and they both, funnily enough, suggested to me on their own that I should chase after a Ford or a Holden wagon. So a Ford or a Holden wagon. These are cars with really big backs on them so that you can put a lot of stuff in the back. And so I was searching through Gumtree.com. I can't remember if I found it on Gumtree or if I found it on carsales.com.au. Anyway, so I was looking through on these websites and found a really, really cool deal on a really beautiful car, low kilometers, really clean family car, and it only really done country kilometers. So like it had only been driven on the highway in the country, and went out, checked it out, took it for a test drive, had James look at it, give it the once over, and give me the thumbs up, give me the green light, give me the go ahead. And I told the lady, Sonia, who is definitely not listening to this podcast, but thank you, Sonia, I told her that I would love to purchase the car. So that is the other big thing for 2017. And that is going to be an awesome, I guess, what would you call it? Like a add-on, I guess, a bonus part of Aussie English, because this car is going to allow me to drive around Australia, which is something that I'm really looking forward to doing. And I'll get onto that shortly. So yeah, that's 2017, guys. I would love for you guys to drop a comment or send me a post, send me an email, send me some kind of message. Let me know how your 2017 was. I would love to hear from you guys about what you got up to, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs. Just tell me about your year, or let's discuss it. If you see this being shared on Facebook, make sure you make a comment. Let's discuss it. Let's have a chat. Use your English. So I should probably get onto plans for Aussie English in 2018. So this year, and it's still kind of hasn't sunk in. It hasn't sunk in that it's 2018 yet. So I might just have a quick drink first. So 2018, what are the plans for Aussie English? The plans for Aussie English. So, alright, so obviously I want to keep working on the Aussie English classroom. That's number one. Number two, I now have this car and I want to be able to drive around Australia. I want to be able to show you guys Australia, the parts that I can visit. And I also want to interview Australians from all of these parts of Australia and turn that into content for you guys to be able to use. So definitely give me feedback on your opinions of what I cover and talk about in the next part of this podcast episode, because that's the whole point. I need your feedback. I need you to tell me good idea, bad idea, okay idea. If you change this, it'll be better. Alright, so yeah. Wanting to improve the Aussie English classroom. I want to put more content in there. I want to make it the one-stop shop for anyone learning Australian English or English in general. So it's going to be that online membership website where you sign up and you instantly get access to everything on there, and you have to stay signed up if you want to be able to maintain access to all that content. So it's growing every week at the moment, but it's only expression episodes as it currently stands. So I'm probably going to expand this and try and make it that you can get a subscription to the Aussie English Classroom where you get just access to the expression episodes, because that tends to be something that some people only want that. They just want access to the expression episodes and the way that I've set out the exercises for those. And then there'll probably be a slight upgrade membership to the Aussie English Classroom where you'll get access to everything else. And I guess you're going to say, what the hell is everything else going to be? And this is where I need your feedback. So I have an idea in my head that I would love to just create as much content on there as possible for you guys, answering all kinds of questions. And I guess I would do this by creating courses, as you'll be familiar with if you're already using the Aussie English Classroom. So ideas would be that I might have a mini course with lessons that cover how to use all the different tenses in English. I might have the pronunciation of ED endings course on there. I might create a small course for how to create or to use an Australian accent. I might make more courses on using adjectives, adverbs, all sorts of different aspects of grammar, so that any of these kind of little courses you can do and complete at your own pace, so that you don't have to go through and do everything all at once. You can take your time, you can do a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe you're having trouble with the present tense in English, you would go into the English tenses course, and you would just do the present tense component. That would be the basic idea. I want it to ultimately be a resource where you can go in there and learn any aspect of English that you're having trouble with. But it's going to be a lot of work for me to create that over the months and years ahead, but that's the ultimate goal. I want it to be a website where anytime you have an issue in English, the answer is going to be on this website, where you can sign up, you can enroll, you can stay there for as long as you like or as short as you like and get access to those answers, improve your English, stay there for forever, or you can leave as soon as you've got what you need. But that's the ultimate goal, because that's the kind of resource that I would like for learning things like Portuguese or French. It's a real pain in the butt, it's a real pain in the ass when you have a problem in, say, French with the passé composé, which is a verb tense. If you've got trouble with that, quite often your only sort of recourse, the only thing you can do to try and solve that issue is get on Google and do a search for how to use the passé composé, or you get on YouTube and you have to search how to use the passé composé, and you can't tend to find the same person or the same kind of quality content answering all of your different questions when and where they arise. So that's what I want to try and create, something where you can get in there and you're going to have the answers to everything. But obviously it's going to take a bit of time. So that's the idea with the Aussie English Classroom. There'll still be the weekly expression episode 1, where you can get in there and you can just do those if you want a kind of general fun exercise where you go through it systematically and you learn about Australian culture, you go over a little grammar, a little bit of pronunciation, connected speech, vocab, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of hits all the bases lightly. But if you want to get in really heavily for specific sort of things, that's what this other part of the Aussie English Classroom, that sort of upgraded membership, is going to hopefully cover. And it'll also save me a lot of effort creating all these independent courses. So you'll probably be aware that I have the ED ending course, which is like $5. You can sign up to that if you want to perfect your pronunciation of words that end with ED, warned, wanted, watched, all those kinds of words. I know they're difficult, so I created a course for that, and that was a standalone by itself course. And then obviously I'm still doing the phrasal verb course at the moment, but it's probably a bit of a waste of time to do these all independently, and so that's why I think it's a better idea to try and have them all in the one place, so that you can access everything. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to buy this course, I'm going to buy this course, I'm going to buy this course. So that's the basic idea there. Again, make sure that you get on Facebook and let me know, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Would it be better if I did something else? You can also send me an email at theaussieenglishpodcast@gmail.com. Just tell me what you think. But that's the Aussie English Classroom idea for 2018. That's what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to try and smash out the phrasal verb course, and then I'm going to try and focus 100% on the Aussie English Classroom. Aside from that, something that you guys might not be aware of me doing at the moment, I don't think, at least if I go through my memory, I don't think that I've done anything recently with regards to interviews on the podcast. But recently I've actually collected about 10 interviews with Australians. And these are kind of long form interviews, kind of like this podcast right now, where I'm talking. It's not a script and the conversation just flows, except obviously when it's an interview, there's at least one other person and me in the podcast episode. I'm trying to get as many of these possible as I can for you guys though, because I want to give you access to as many different accents in English as possible. Obviously Australian accents, but all sorts of other accents as well. And this is also going to be something that I'm going to have primarily in the Aussie English classroom, but I'm going to release on the podcast as well, bit by bit, but that then you can sign up to the Aussie English classroom if you want to complete these interview lessons as opposed to just listen to them. Or maybe you can just download the whole thing and listen to them from start to finish. So that's the basic idea, and that sort of ties in with me wanting to travel around Australia. I want to get out there and start meeting fair dinkum Aussies who you wouldn't potentially meet in the city or in Ocean Grove. That's the idea. I want to go out there, I want to meet people, I want to talk to them, I want to learn about their Australia, their upbringing, their culture, all sorts of things that they can offer in conversation, and that's what I want to bring to you guys. So that's another big thing for 2018. It's going to be that I think Aussie English will move towards also doing interviews really heavily, and I hope that's something that you guys would like, because I'm sure that you're probably getting sick to death of hearing only my voice, or at least mainly my voice on the podcast, and want some other people on here with different accents. So yeah, that's another thing for 2018, and it will tie in with me driving around the country. Aside from that, what other plans do I have for Aussie English? I guess first and foremost, it's mainly just developing the Aussie English classroom, and then also, secondly, getting in those interviews. So from the top of my head at the moment, off the top of my head, that's the main thing. Outside of Aussie English though, I'm going to be obviously trying to establish myself in Ocean Grove, get set up there, find a house, hopefully maybe get to the beach a little more often, get more active as well. I've kind of put on a few kilos over the Christmas period, which is pretty unavoidable. Seems to always be the case that you overeat, you overdrink, and you under-exercise. So I'll be trying to shed those kilos, shed those extra pounds in the next few months as well. But yeah, that seems to be it for now. For 2018, those tend to be the plans. I'm sure something will come up, something will change. I'll have to pivot, I'll have to adjust. But the plan is to just keep going, to knuckle down, to work even harder on Aussie English, and keep delivering you guys the best kind of content possible to help you learn Australian English as quickly and as humorously, as enjoyably as possible. So we might finish up there, guys, because I've been rabbiting on for quite a bit now. But remember, get on Facebook or send me an email and give me some feedback for the ideas that you just heard me talk about with Aussie English. I'm always open to hearing about what you think, what you'd like to learn about. If you want me to do things slightly differently, if you want me to do things drastically differently, give me some kind of feedback. That is what I would really, really love from you guys. And yeah, let me know what your New Year's resolution is too. If you guys have had a New Year's resolution for 2018, and if it's tied in with English, if it's related to English, let me know, and let me know if I can help in any way. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining me for this drive. Thanks for listening to me talk my head off. I'm looking forward to chatting to you soon, guys, and I will, chat to you soon. Peace out, guys.